Okay. In the last video, we set up ourselves to update our lobby settings to our database. And from that, I noticed an issue that I am quite embarrassed to say how long it actually took me to figure out. So currently, the way we have all these events bound, when we go to cooperative and host game, nothing works. We can't send any text to the chat. Our name doesn't show up or just nothing. Well, the reason for that is beacon host from this return node is not valid. The reason it's not valid, I forgot to link it up. So now that we link it up, I try again. Ta-da! It shows up. Just get rid of that string. So let's test the current player count. Make sure I have no servers up. I feel like an idiot. Alright, got the game hosted. Here's our entry. Current player is 1. Let's try to join it. Alright, we're still showing 1. So we need to test something. Just triple checking that this all works. Okay, it does. Alright, let's try to fix our current player issue. So let's see here. We are passing in current players. Let's see. We need to update current players. We're going to call update server data. Let's see. When a player joins, on client connected, update client lobby info. Okay. So once we call update client lobby info, what we want to do is make our update to the server. So that's for the player count. So I want to make a new, actually let's just simply call, I want to minimize and get these out of the way. We're going to call update server data and try to pass in the same stuff minus the current, well, with the exception of current players. So on client connected, here's where we update everything. After that, I'm going to call update server data. There we go, show me the parameters. It's going to be server data dot, what was it called? Oh, right, I'm not storing it anywhere. So we need to actually create a server data object that will store it. So I'm going to try to for declare a struct f server data. I think that's in the game instance. Yeah, f server data, server data. And in set server data, I'm going to go through and I'm going to actually set it. I need to include the game instance first. Nazi zombie game instance base .h server data dot server ID equals, oh, actually ignore that entirely, dot server name equals server name, map name equals map name, current players equals current players, and max players equals max players. Okay, so I'm probably going to have to actually include game instance. Oh, that's why it's not in the main menu. So public Nazi zombie game. There we go. right, come on, update. All right, fine, I'll retype you so you do. There, happy now? All right, so let's see if we can access it, which we cannot. So we're going to include it in our header instead, which I don't necessarily like doing, but yeah. And then remove the forward declaration. You should be happy, as should you, once IntelliSense picks up. Oh, good grief. There we go. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but down and update server data. And I'm actually going to remove our current players as a parameter from both update server data. And I'm simply just going to call get current player count, which is our function right here. So remove that, remove current players from both the set and update server data functions, like so. Set current players to equal server data dot current players. Yep, that's pretty much all actually. But for update, since we were calling update from blueprint, what I can do instead is simply construct an f server data and pass it in. So we're going to do f server data serve or new server data, like so. We're going to do that for the set as well. And this will clean it up quite a bit. So let's work on our set real quick. I can actually set server data equals new server data. We're going to do server data dot server name map name, current players, and max players. Gonna copy this, move it down to our update, and same thing with the setting. Set server data to equal new server data. Okay, that should be just about all. What we need to do is set server data dot current players to equal get current player count. And do that in both functions. And then I think that is all for now. We are going to have to do it again in our on client connected. Not sure what you're throwing a fit about. Probably all this crap. So at the end here, call update server data. Yeah, and we just pass in our current server data, and it simply will refresh the player count and send the update to the server. So I'm going to go ahead and go to where we call our, where we set everything. Let's see, create host beacon. Here we have set server data. I'm going to disconnect all of the links and do the same thing in our update. Update database entry, break all the connections, and what we're going to do is simply compile our game from Visual Studio. I'm going to have to relaunch the editor, and then all we have to do is simply create the new struct and bind it. All right, what am I missing here? 149. All right, we compiled, relaunch the editor, go to the main menu, and relink the nodes. Okay, so let's do create host beacon first. So we have just a single input now for set server data. So we're going to do make server data. IP address, just whatever. So max players, link that to max players. Just gonna leave current players out because it does not matter, and get rid of get current players. Here we have the server name and the map name, and that is all we need. So we can link it back up. Just like so. Now we have our update database. Gonna do the same thing. Gonna make server data. Get rid of current player count. And we're gonna pass in IP, just doing a bunch of ones. Max players, map name, server name, and link it. There we go. Now let's just triple check that this all works. So I want to delete that entry. Make sure we're running. Okay, let's check the database. That's all being set. Let me update a new server name. Let's do 6 and map 2. Press OK. Refresh. Map 2, max player 6, new server name. Okay, that is good. Now we can test current players. So let's launch 2 copies. Host the game on one. Find the game on this one. And check the database. Current players 2. Confirm that when I change it, that it still updates, which it does. Now let's leave on the client. So it's just the host and update. Okay, so when the player leaves, we also need to call the update. So let's close that down. Go to where we call our disconnect player. I think it's just here. Yep. So update client lobby info and update server data. So after this, we should be good to go. I apologize that this has been a longer video than normal. I feel like I'm probably pushing like a half hour so far or something. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that entry. Why not launch 3? There's the game. Here's our entry. Connect. So it says 1 out of 5 players. Connect. 2 out of 5. That's good. Check the database. 3 out of 5. Let's leave on this client. And we have 2 out of 5. We go to find game again. Refresh. We got 2 out of 5. Leave on this client. We have 1 out of 5. Refresh. 1 out of 5. Then when we leave on the host, server entry is gone. Yep. So we now have our server information being properly updated. So that's really good for us. And yeah, we now are able to check if our current and max players. And now that we have the ability to easily do that, what we can do is make a simple check in on client connected to see if we have reached the max player count. If we have, we simply kick them out so they can no longer join. And I think that's what we're going to end up doing in the next video. So I will see you then.